While I'm out here getting the chickens area set up, what I really want to talk about a bit is some of the lessons learned from brooding these guys. I've come up with kind of, I'm gonna say 7 or 8, things that I've learned as I've gone through the process, and that's probably oversimplifying it because I've never done it. Therefore, I'd say the whole thing's learning. But I'm trying to find some areas to kind of key in on and talk about those, and maybe that'll help somebody else. So I'm out here today trying to figure out where my next spot's going to be to set up the little mobile chicken area. The area I was in, just not exactly a great spot. A little bit too much hill and not just in the way. And so I've been speculating for a little while about where I want to put my garden at for next year. And I originally wanted to do it down there next to the existing chicken run. But I've got water line and electrical line that runs somewhere through that area, or very close, somewhere between the house here and down there. And I just need to find that first. I've got my little alarm dog. She's not a guard dog, she's too small. Ain't that right, Nala? She sees the chickens and is all excited. Nala, no ma'am. Nope, she's gonna go down there and get zapped by that fence. We better go get her. Nala, you better stop. You're gonna learn like everything else. That wire won't feel good. Yeah. You're supposed to alarm to protect them, not alarm to scare them. Is that right? You move pretty good. Nah, look, back up. It's gonna get you. As I was saying, before I get this set up, I really need to figure out where those lines are and make sure that I'm not going to destroy them if I start trying to till or plant fence posts or anything else like that. So I'm pretty sure that the line, I know the water line, and I'm pretty sure the electrical line's in the same trench, run from about where that spigot is, but down underground and somewhere out through here. And my guess is that it actually runs about where the gate is, in between those two posts, just based on some evidence I've seen. And there's a bit of a pattern in the ground here that makes me think maybe, just maybe, that's it. But that also worries me that it's not buried deep enough. So at some point, I don't know if you can tell, that path is a little bit easier, a month or two ago, before the grass really was growing well. But anyways, I digress. I think I'm gonna look at planting the garden up here. This area is pretty flat. It's out of the way of any sort of utilities. I've got easy access to water. This area gets sun a good portion of the day. So I think I'm gonna find me a spot out in here. I'm gonna set the chickens up in here for a while and let them spend the next couple of months potentially in this area. But we'll see. Haven't gotten any video update of this thing in a while, and it's growing like wildfire. So I think it's been growing for nearly a month now. I don't really have anything obvious, but I've definitely gotten a ton of blooms, but I think none of it's really germinating, or not germinating, that's not the right word, pollinating really well. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I've tried to manually pollinate it, but it looks like maybe it does. There's a few here that look like they're developing, so maybe I'm just jumping the gun a little. But either way, that thing is growing like wildfire, and the more it grows, the more I'm thinking that's probably a pumpkin. But again, I guess we'll see. try that again. One of the first things that I noticed was the size of the brooding setup that I had. It was fine initially for the first 2 weeks maybe, and then they quickly outgrew it. And I think there might be cases where it's beneficial to have kind of maybe multiple sizes, right? Like if you have a really good setup for when they're first born, and then maybe a really good setup for kind of the next stages. But in my case, it was kind of a pain. Like they grew so quickly that they outgrew that cardboard box that I started them in extremely quick. And so I had to upsize to the paneling, that plastic paneling for the baby gates that I've got. And I quickly had to upsize it again. And again, it wasn't too much trouble per se, but I think it would have just been easier to set up those panels from the get-go in my case. But my hope next time is to actually have maybe more of a traditional brooding setup, potentially out near my coops. But the second lesson would definitely be the cardboard. I thought it'd be a great idea because it's it'll absorb the moisture and stuff, and so I put it up underneath all their bedding at first. But in reality, what happened is that I think the cardboard absorbed the moisture faster than the wood chips, and then it just held it, and it never dissipated, and it was stuck to the concrete floor in the garage, which actually ended up leading to a little bit of mold. And I got that cleaned out pretty quickly, but it was actually pretty disgusting and did not work like I expected. So I'd say that definitely avoid cardboard if you can. It's okay maybe for a short period, but definitely don't use it as a way to contain any of the droppings or moisture. I think it ended up being more of a mess, and long term I think it would have created a health hazard for both me and the birds. The third lesson definitely goes back to those plastic gates. They were great at first, and they're pretty maneuverable, and I could tear them down. It was easy to pick up and clean up when I was done, and something I already had, which was definitely probably the biggest perk, right? They didn't cost me anything because I already had them for the kids. But they started out great, and then as I added more of the mulch and stuff in there for the bedding, over time it definitely started to spill out of the sides, and that created a lot of mess. And so I was constantly sweeping the floor and scooping it back in, and not the end of the world, and for free I think they were pretty darn great. And so I don't know, the lesson learned being, if it doesn't cost you a lot, that's great, and use what you've got. When you do that, you reduce the cost, and everything costs money and it's expensive. So I would definitely use what you have. But if you have something solid for the walls, that would probably be best. Another lesson I learned pretty quick on is be prepared for when they gain flight, because they start testing the waters pretty soon, in the first couple of weeks. Once they start to feather, I noticed they started attempting to jump up to the edge of the setup that I had them in, and I quickly had to pivot again, right, and figure out how to keep them in. And so I wasn't necessarily prepared for that. I don't know why. That was just an oversight on my part, because chickens can get airborne. But be prepared for that. Either make sure you've got a tall enough brooding setup, or at minimum you've got those guys where where they're not able to get out, like maybe put a roof on it or something. Even though this is the second time I've set this netting up, I've twice underestimated just how much space this will consume, and so I mowed out a path to put the fence in, and clearly it's going to be not big enough, so I'm going to have to jump on the mower and cut me a bit wider of a path and expand this out a little bit. But I'll have a nice big area, and I can kind of move my garden around if I want. So we're gonna go for it. Glad I came prepared. So number 5 and 6 all have to do with feeding and watering them. I bought a couple of smaller feeders and waterers that I've talked about in some other videos, and there's nothing wrong with them. They did a good job. I don't necessarily have complaints about the product, but one issue that I did definitely run into is they are not good if you don't want to have to visit them often. The smaller feeders and waterers are okay for the first week or two, but then once they got just a little bit bigger, and they weren't even all that old, maybe 3 or 4 weeks old, it got to a point where I was constantly having to fill them up like twice a day, and that's just not really doable. When I say twice a day, I mean like twice throughout the day, every day. And so that's just not exactly doable when you got a day job and you can't be there to kind of keep that stuff full. And so I would definitely recommend, get the bigger ones up front. Make room for them. Don't bother with the small ones. If you're only raising maybe a half a dozen chicks, it probably would be fine. But I thought, I'll have 2 small feeders and 2 small waterers, and it just was a headache. So skip that. If you're raising more than, I don't know, a dozen or so, just get the bigger ones. It doesn't have to be the massive feeders, but just get a good size one so that you're not having to constantly chase that down day in and day out. And then you can deal with just making sure they have fresh water every day. And that actually leads to the next one, which is hang their food and water if possible. It is really annoying how much the chickens will pee and poop in their water and in their food. And if it's sitting on the ground and they can get on top of it, they will. And they will pee and poop in it. And so just forego the setting it on the ground if you can. Hang that thing. Make it hard for them to get on top of it, because they will pee and poop in it, like guaranteed. So that adds to how often you're having to change out their food and water too, which is annoying. And feed can be expensive, and so you don't really want them peeing and pooping in their food. So that would be my recommendation on that. Just hang it. If you can, get it out of the way. Make it adjustable so that you can move it up and down. The first thing I did, and I think it was in one of my videos when I finally did hang it, is I just got some paracord and I hung it from the lid. It made it really easy to put it on and take it off. I didn't have too much trouble with it that way. So that would definitely be my recommendation. The other benefit of just hanging those things is that you don't get other trash in there. Aside from the poop, you get any of their bedding and just anything else that's on the ground. If you're in a dirt area, you're gonna get dirt in it. If you've got wood chips or straw or whatever other kind of bedding you might be using, like, it'll end up in there. And after they got a couple days old, they got to where they started trying to scratch at it, and so they start throwing stuff, and it's just in their nature. But definitely work on just keep that stuff picked up out of the way, and it'll just make life a lot easier. I'd say the last lesson that I wanted to kind of talk about is where your brooder is set up. And for me, even though it was inside and a little bit messy, and it was just consistent, it worked well. I loved it. I didn't have to worry about predators. It was easy. It was close to the house. I can't say enough about it. It just made life so much easier, so much better. You just don't have as much to worry about when it's inside and it's close to the house. And so that's definitely my recommendation. Just find, let's say a recommendation. Do what works for you. That's my recommendation. But what worked for me was to make it easy, make it close. I was able to check on them really easily every morning, really easily every evening. Again, no predators. That was a huge perk for me when they're small. And I don't have to worry about the weather. Didn't matter if it's hot, cold, rainy, windy, stormy, it doesn't matter. If you can keep them in a sheltered area, that's at least moderately climate controlled, it just makes things much easier. the last thing is kind of a bonus, would definitely just be go for it. Is easy, you know, easy-ish, right? I feel like I did a good bit of research ahead of time, but it wasn't as intimidating as I thought. I don't have any complaints. It's exciting. I learned a lot, and these guys are getting bigger. I mean, look at these. Look at this. Look at those guys. Say hi, Raptor Squad. Yeah? Look at them. Yeah? I think that that's just a awesome thing to do. It's awesome to learn. And again, as I said before, you know, sometimes you just got to take the next step and stop waiting for the perfect time or the perfect moment. This is, you know, we moved into the house here about, I guess we're 3 months, almost 3 months, or just over 3 months. Apparently I can't do math. And, you know, just staying busy. It's not hard to do, especially once you add more stuff to do. But we started with the 2 out there, and those were a little bit of a surprise, and very quickly went ahead and got these other guys. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Just go for it. Don't be intimidated. I'd love to hear from anybody that cares to watch anything that we're filming here, what your thoughts are on not just, you know, our brooding setup, how we did it, but also just things that have worked for you, or things you've seen work, or suggestions that might help. I definitely don't pretend to be an expert, and I'm far from it. You know, I literally work on computers for a living, so being an expert on animals is definitely a far-fetched, but please do share if you've got any suggestions or learning lessons from your own experience. I'd love to see it. One thing that I'm learning to be better about that isn't specific to brooding, just something that maybe more specific to me or my personality type, is patience. Things take time. Things take a lot of time, and rushing it ends up with disastrous results, which may seem, you know, obvious and stupid to say, but you know, that not being patient can lead to some pretty ugly results. And not that I feel like I've had any, but, you know, just stay consistent and stay patient. I feel like things will just go better regardless. Like this net, for example. I have to be patient or I'm gonna break it, because setting it up isn't exactly easy. It's not like hard, but it's easy to get it tangled, and easy for it to not go the way you want, and lay the way you want, and, you know, etc. So, like, I'm gonna have this extra here, and I'll have to find a way to pin that up out of the way. And all the while I'm doing it, I'm getting eat up by mosquitoes, which is awesome. Buzzing my face, and biting my legs, and biting my arms, and, you know, mosquitoes doing what mosquitoes do. But I can say I'm downright tired of mosquitoes. It's one of the few bugs on the planet that I'm pretty sure has absolutely no purpose in life other than to absolutely aggravate and nag you to death and spread disease and itch and awfulness. But it is what it is. I finally got at least the beginnings of this thing set up. Hopefully this will work out. We're gonna get these guys rolled in there and see how they do. see how long it takes them to come out of there. Every time I move them, they seem to get a little more comfortable. There they go. And while they're doing that, I got a few areas that I need to probably stake up and get out of the grass, so I'm gonna work on that. Alright, so they've gotten settled in and I've got the fence up. So now all I got left to do is get the fence charger up. But that's actually another little project I've got. So I finally bought a grounding rod, an actual grounding rod for my setup out there. And eventually I'm going to try to get a line run around so that maybe I can just run this off of the plug-in charger instead of the solar charger, because it's just got a lot more juice to it. But for now I'm gonna actually go steal the small grounding rod, which is just a piece of rebar from that charger, and bring it up here and use it on this charger. And I'm gonna drive the big 8-foot grounding rod out there. So I'm gonna go work on that and see how well it goes. Hopefully I can beat the sunset here. Driving that rod ain't no joke. That is stubborn. Well, and when you're driving 8 feet post, eventually you're gonna hit rock out here. That's just how things are. Boy howdy. He'll work you to death too. I'll do that. How to get this all fixed up, a little more permanent. It's not in the best of spot right here. And I finally got an actual grounding rod connector. That way it works at least a little better than a pipe clamp, or band clamp, I guess. Almost there. All right, now then, hopefully we'll get a little bit better grounding and this thing will work a little better. All right, we're back on. We'll go do some testing. All right, I'm back over here, ready to do some testing. And I have somebody that's interested. Yeah, you coming over here to see what I'm doing? Let's see how this looks. All right, so looks like I'm getting close to maybe 4. And before I was getting maybe 2. So that's at least an improvement. Still got some room for improvement though, because the way I have things connected up here isn't exactly ideal. You know, you just got it twisted off with a wire nut. And I mean, it's working, but it's not ideal. Yes, I hear you. I know. You're really curious what I got going on here. Oh. It helps if I don't accidentally ground it out. There we go. Yeah, getting about 4,000 here as well, so again, double the improvement. That's good. I probably need to go through here and weed eat and knock down the grass on the other side, make sure it's not getting too close, and then maybe reconnect that with a better connector back there. But in the meantime, that'll be a little better. All right, I'm back up here with the baby chicks. Well, the not so baby chicks. And got my new grounding rod, and I'm gonna actually mount the solar charger to this old birdhouse stand, which hopefully at some point maybe I can refurb this thing. But in the meantime, I'm gonna make use of this post that's here, and I'm gonna mount the bracket probably here for the fence charger. Even though it's made to go on a round fence post, I'm gonna mount it here. I think that'll be the best place for it, but we'll see. I'm gonna get it mounted up and get it connected to the fence here, and hopefully we don't have any issues. So after wrapping up the evening, getting the baby chicks finally outside permanently, this is gonna be my next project. And so since they stayed in the garage a little longer than I had hoped in the chickshaw, I shoveled a lot of this up underneath just to collect anything they dropped. And you know, they definitely spent too much time in there, but long term I don't think there'll be any ill effects from that. And so I'll get this all shoveled up and figure out where I'm going to dump it next. So I think I'm probably going to dump it in there where they're at and let them spread it, and let that be the beginnings of my composting in the future garden. So show you guys that next time. I got Twinkle out here exploring with me again. What are you thinking, buddy? Come on, Twinkle. Yeah. So one little sneak peek for anybody that might have stayed around this long. We got Twinkle exploring outside again, and he goes to the vet in 2 days, and then after his vet visit I'm going to look at a tractor, and I'm really thinking about a red tractor, but I'm not going to say which one yet. But I'm going to go talk to the dealer on Wednesday and take a look at what kind of options they got, what they have in stock, what sort of implements I might be able to get my hands on, and what kind of deal I might be able to make. See what we can afford, and hopefully that might help streamline a few of these other projects that I need to get done, and including bush hogging again, because my back pasture is starting to get overgrown, and I think that's what's harboring all these mosquitoes. So I need to get back there and get that all cut back, and hopefully it'll cut down on the mosquitoes and help me get some stuff done around here. And to be quite honest, it's kind of fun. Just saying. Anything on a tractor is usually fun. At least small scale. And I know Noah will absolutely go head over heels, which I haven't told the kids that I'm going to get one yet. Just kind of talked about it briefly and see how they'd react, but I think he'll be excited. Yeah, you exploring there? I think that's another morning glory that he's trampling on. Come here, Twinkle. Come here, buddy. I'll let him explore a little bit, and then I gotta wrap up everything tonight. So I'll see you guys next time.